All right.
Pleasant afternoon, everyone. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all, especially our postgraduate students and supervisors, to this panel discussion on the art of converting graduate research into impactful publications, which is hosted under the Professorial Mentorship Caucus. Of course, the Professorial Mentorship Caucus is the brainchild of our principal, where professors, as senior academic members of the staff, to share their knowledge, wisdom, experience, and vision for the benefit of our researchers, including postgraduate students, and improve the overall research productivity of the campus through various engagements. One such engagement is happening now with our graduate students and the graduate supervisors, where we would like our professors to share their wisdom for the art of publishing, the culture of publishing, the postgraduate research. Publications are critical to increase the visibility of the research work that we do in the university, in the country, and in the region. Not only for that, in the academic world, publications disseminate new knowledge, advancing literature in all disciplines, and most importantly, that will help to advance your career. Therefore, the culture of publishing the scholarly work is very important. That is the reason we have this session inviting our professors to share their experience and perspective in the art of converting graduate research into publications. Now, on this panel discussion, my name is Duraisamy Sarvana Kumar. I'm the Director for Graduate Studies and Research, going to moderate this session. I have four of our excellent professors who have rich experience in publishing impactful research, and of course, impactful publications come from impactful research on our campus. With this introduction, I will invite our first speaker for this panel discussion, Professor Michelle Mycoo, to share her perspectives on pathways to impactful publications. I will introduce the other speakers before they come for the presentation. Now, Prof. Mycoo is the Professor of Urban and Regional Planning at the Department of Geomatics Engineering and Land Management at the Faculty of Engineering. She is the recipient of 3 prestigious international scholarships, which includes the Commonwealth Scholarship, the Canadian International Development Agency Fellowship, and the US Fulbright Fellowship. She has received several campus and university level awards for her outstanding research in 2014 and also recently in 2025 Principals Research Awards. Without further ado, I invite Prof. Mycoo to share her perspectives on the graduate research and how that can be converted into publications. Over to you, Prof. Mycoo.
Thank you, Professor Sarvana Kumar. It is indeed my pleasure to do a presentation and share my personal experience really in the pathway to impactful publications. It's an interesting journey, and it's no doubt a challenging journey if you are a young researcher, but there are tips that you can follow to navigate that space, so to speak. Let me just upload my file, and let's see. Can you confirm that you are seeing my PowerPoint?
Yes, I'm seeing your PowerPoint.
Okay, great. Yeah. So as you know, the purpose of this panel discussion is really to excite young researchers, whether they be our postgraduate students or younger colleagues, in the sort of journey towards publications generally. It's really helping to students and young researchers navigate complexities in the landscape of converting your research into publications. what we're really seeking to do, and as researchers and as mentors to young scholars, is we're trying to build confidence and to reduce anxiety in the whole pathway towards publication, and as well to minimize the fear of paper rejection. That's just part of the course. I will elaborate on that later. But we also want to, at the end of the day, build resilience in the face of rejection, and to also celebrate small wins. If you are publishing and you get an abstract accepted, present at a conference, that's really a win that should be, no doubt, applauded. How do you get the journey started? The first step would be to co-author with your supervisor. In many ways, your supervisor is an expert in their own discipline. They are a leader and they're working synergistically with you as a learner. So it's a sort of fusion, really, of the mentor-mentee relationship, where you're going to collaborate as research pairs, really, at this point. And the key to this is you want to collaborate. You don't want to make this journey alone. It can be a lonely journey if you are seeking to do independent research without the help of a seasoned researcher. The other important thing is that you would want to try to review literature to determine if there are research gaps that exist in your discipline. And I stop here to elaborate that even though your thesis is a research output, it doesn't naturally transition to a full paper or journal publication. What you really want to do is to find out what grabs the attention of this scholarly field or discipline. So you are really trying to review or determine gaps in the discipline. And that's sort of where you begin to pivot towards a particular theme, as it were. Your supervisor is an expert, and they usually know how the gaps are or where they're occurring. So it's important.
Sorry, I'm not sure if you're moving the slides. At my end, I'm not seeing that. Yeah.
You're not seeing that part. Okay, let's try again. Are you seeing this? Getting the journey started?
No, probably no. You need to stop share, then again, share it.
Okay,
And
let's
yeah,
just stop that again.
yeah.
Let's see. Let me minimize. Okay. Okay, let's see what happens here. Are you seeing this on the screen?
Yeah, and you could go to the slideshow, probably no. That's why we're not seeing
I
that.
think what has happened with this slide, I am in the slideshow mode. I'll try again. You'll see the first page, second page. Are you seeing getting started on the journey?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I'm seeing that. Probably if you just go to the next slide and I will see if that is moving or not.
Targeting the right journal. Are you seeing that?
No, we're not
No,
seeing it.
it's static. It's static.
Okay. I'll tell you what, to solve that, and in the interest of time,
Yeah.
let's just work with the screen up. So you're seeing getting
Yeah.
started.
Now,
Okay.
yeah, now moving. Yeah, I'm seeing
Yeah.
that.
Let's
Okay.
work with this slide back. Okay, so what I was saying is that getting this journey started, you're really co-authoring with your supervisor, who is going to be the mentor and to you, and you're really establishing a mentorship relationship with your mentor. That sort of synergy results in greater collaboration, and it helps to make the journey easier. As I said, you do need to see if there are gaps in the literature, because it's in finding the gaps in the research that your readership expands, because they want to know what void are you filling, what gap are you filling in the research landscape. As I said, your supervisor is an expert and they usually know the gaps. So you do need to consult with your supervisor. What I have found interesting is once I have identified the research gap, I start narrowing down to look at whether the research gaps may exist along certain thematic areas, or they may be by geographic region. So there is an explosion of research on the global south, which is our part of the world. But you can also start to narrow down or filter down to our region, which would be the Caribbean small island developing states. There's a growing body of literature and there are still significant research gaps. And that's where you come in closing the gap, really. What is also interesting for a young researcher is to check to see, apart from your specific journals that explore your discipline and the themes, there are usually journals that make special calls along certain themes, and they have a particular focus for that set of journals coming out, whether it's, as they say, spring, autumn, and so on. What you can do is also find out if there are special calls within the journals you are familiar with, and your supervisor also belongs to a network of researchers, so they will know or receive an email saying there is a special call along these thematic areas. We move to targeting the right journal. I think this is where a lot of time can be saved. A lot of pain can be alleviated if you target the right journal. What you do is you look for reputable journals. You've got to do research on what are the reputable journals which cover themes in your discipline. In other words, is there a good fit to your work in that particular discipline, or rather journal? You also need to look at the scope, the aims and objectives. If you find that the journal does not have any scope for your kind of work, it doesn't want to publish on aims and objectives, or vice versa, it wants to, then that's the right fit, if it's going to cover the scope of your work that you've done for your research. It's important to look also at the writing style of the journal. Some may be heavily technical, some may require a lot of figures and maps and so on. Check the journals, go and look at some of the earlier publications to see whether what you have produced or in framing or crafting your paper, whether your style of writing matches the journal. It's also important to look at the structure and word limit. Normally, good journals will tell you, or if you look back at them, they will tell you the structure of what your paper should look like. And it will also tell you what is the word length or word limit for that journal. So do your research on the journal, target the right journal, look for a good fit, check the writing style, look at the structure they're asking for, look at the word limit. And also, you need in writing your paper to demonstrate that you know the literature that has evolved in the last decade. They don't want, yes, you may have some seminal work that may date back 20 years, fine, and you demonstrate you know that. But what you're doing in your research is building, showing that you are familiar with the literature so that the reader is aware that there are new pieces of research coming out that you have begun to summarize or synthesize or critically evaluate in your paper. And that sort of builds upon your narrative in the research paper. I have found that it's important when you're writing papers to decide who your audience or your readership is going to be. So, for example, what's new for scientists? What's relevant to policymakers? Is your work going to be useful for practitioners, people on the ground? And I would look at papers that have recently been published to check to see how they have been done so that you have some guideline. In submitting, you should look at your author gateway. They do provide extensive guidelines on the particular journal. So do check that, and please don't cut corners in using the guidelines and ticking the boxes, because if you submit, you will get some comments from the reviewers that you did not follow the guidelines. You can save yourself a lot of time. Okay, I'm beginning to come down to the end of my presentation. Very quickly, there are two stages in the review process. One, when you've done your first draft, you should have a mock peer review where you may present to your supervisor who is becoming your co-author, or you may be amongst your colleagues, your peers, who can give you some critique of the work. It helps you because then you are aware of where you have made some mistakes and where you can fine-tune your paper to move it to the next stage. The super is well networked. And what I would say is in selecting the reviewers, because your supervisor is well networked and has access to a bank of colleagues in your discipline, it's usually very easy to identify potential reviewers. I have benefited in that I work with a number of international colleagues through my committee work and so on. And I know who are the so-called gurus in the particular thematic area, that it's easy for me to pick out who I would recommend. It doesn't mean that person is going to be selected, but who I recommend to review the paper because they have knowledge of this particular theme I'm covering. Now, you don't contact your reviewer because at all times you want to ensure academic integrity. So that's a no-no. You don't reach out to the reviewer. You leave that to the editors of the particular journal. Final points. Sometimes you will get an outright rejection to your paper. That's not the end of the world. This too shall pass. Take the comments of the reviewer, revise your paper, and pivot. Take the paper to another journal that may, based on the revisions from the reviewers, would review it and perhaps accept it for publication. Normally, most researchers get a revised and resubmit review from the reviewers. It's rare that you get a full acceptance of your paper at the first stage, so worry not. Take the reviewer's comments, ensure you answer all the comments, and please take a few days when you get the reviewer's comments. At first, you can be a little bit antsy when you get the comments like, what did they think? Did they not see I did this and so on? Calm down, rest it, come back to it a couple of days later. You'll be surprised how that aha moment comes. And you respond to the reviewers in a respectful manner. The last thing you want is to antagonize your reviewer. They're already taking time off to do this gratis, and you should be really grateful for taking the time to give some useful comments so that you can get to publish your work and have impactful, meaningful research. So I come down to saying that at the end of the day, what you're really looking at is a pathway to impactful publications, and it's a process. Don't be daunted. Seek the advice of your mentor, your supervisor, and with time, you will find that it gets easier and easier to publish your work once you've got the secret ingredients or the secret sauce that goes along with publications. Thank you very much, and I hope this has been very useful to you. Professor Sarah, over to you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Mycoo, and it was an excellent presentation, and of course, a lot of messages there for our researchers, our postgraduate students, resilience, and I like how you put the way and also starting this panel discussion. in a orderly manner, saying that, what are the pathways to impactful publications. Especially, I like how you emphasize on the resilience and also the revise and resubmit. Recently, we have to submit a paper, and that was published in the same journal, but that has to undergo like 8 revisions. And every time we submit sometimes we feel that, oh, it's only happening to us, or as you have mentioned, 95% or more than 95% of the papers we receive major revisions, because the reviewers, they have their perspectives and we need to revise and we have to submit, and it's very rare that we get right away accepted. But at the same time, if we get right away accepted, we need to be mindful whether we are publishing it in a predatory journal. So that is a point that we have to look into it. All are the rigor, peer review, and the rigorous peer review, which is very, very important to make sure that we are publishing it in a very good journal. Thank you so much for that. And please hold on for the discussion session until we have other 3 of our professors complete their presentation. Thank you so much. Now, moving on to the next presentation, that is from our Professor Jayaraman from the Faculty of Science and Technology. Professor Jayaraman is a biotechnology and plant microbiology professor with more than 25 funded research projects and over 125 refereed publications. He has also received numerous awards for his outstanding research contribution in his field. His research supports sustainable agriculture through work in biological control, plant microbe interactions, disease diagnostics, and biostimulants, and genetic engineering for stress tolerance. He is going to do the presentation on writing research paper from thesis, the NAC, and the strategy. Now I invite Prof. Jaya to give his presentation. Over to you, Prof. Jaya. Prof, you are muted.
Thanks, Chair. Do you hear me properly?
Yeah, we are hearing you. But we are
Okay.
not seeing you, but that's
I'm
fine.
also turning on the video.
Okay.
I don't know. The video is not It's not turning on. It was working earlier. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, that's fine, Prof. You can go ahead with the presentation, yeah, if that's a difficulty.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Chair,
We are
for
seeing
putting
you
me.
now.
Huh?
We are seeing you now.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thanks for putting me a little bit early in the in the line. Thanks for the nice introduction, and thanks for the opportunity. I'm so excited to see you all and meet you all through this forum. So this is a title. I'm going to talk about the knack and the strategy, where I'm going to emphasize my own experience and perspectives, in converting the thesis into research papers. Okay. For me, writing a research paper out of any research, any piece of research, no matter what it is, maybe a report or a dissertation or a thesis, even it could be an undergrad project, because I have some real successful stories where undergrad students started the project and then matured into a research paper through their postgrad research, or even by extending their research by some other way. So I feel it is a necessity. In fact, it is a responsibility of a researcher. Whenever they do a piece of research, it is a responsibility to publish it, to make worthy of the resources. That means the money that has been spent, and the facilities that have been used, and the time spent. So it is our responsibility. It's not an option. So writing a research paper and publishing is not an option, but it is a responsibility as a scientist, as a researcher, as a student. The first point I want to highlight is the visibility. So when we write a thesis or a report or a project report, that normally ends up with the library. So the people who are going to read is just you and the supervisors and the committee of members and the examiners. and hardly people will go to the library and then look at the whole document. It rarely happens. So actually there is not much visibility in a thesis, but it is rather a fulfillment of a degree. So you get a degree just by using the thesis. But how you are getting recognized in the scientific community and the academic community is just through your research paper. So it has to be published. So research paper has the highest visibility than a thesis. So we need to improve our visibility. At this point of time, visibility speaks. And the third is dissemination of research. So whenever we do research, no one knows what you are doing. So you have a responsibility to share the results and your experience with the scientific community, what has been done and what has been achieved, how it is going to affect the the community which is associated, or how it is going to contribute to the science, and also for the visibility. So the dissemination has to be done. And next is for career and academic advancement. So if you say I did a research, how we can validate that. So quantitatively, and what is a measurement? So you can always say I completed the research and I got the award, or I got a grant. But remember, the quantifiable achievement means it is in terms of research papers, and to have a competitive edge over others. And it is a requirement for grants and scholarships. For any type of grant, you need to have at least a few papers on that particular field, or you need to have some kind of experience. If you simply say that I'm experienced in this, nobody will believe you. So you need to have a paper in that particular field. And for scholarship, yes, it is a requirement. Even in our, the scholarships for students, as well as the CRP grants, it is always emphasized that we need to publish our work. So it is a requirement. And skill development and personal growth. This is very important, because the students, you are completing your research and then opting for jobs. Maybe you are in the jobs and then a part-time job and then doing the research, and then you are going in for an upgrade or a promotion. Or that is what you call as a career advancement and for personal growth. So for all these things, if you want to say that I am a master of a particular field, or I know this particular skill, or I know this part of research, then what is the evidence? The evidence is only that your research paper. So a research paper is the only evidence, and even a big reference letter from your referee or a teacher is not going to help much. But it requires a solid evidence. The solid evidence is not your thesis. Nobody is going to read your thesis, and no one even asks you for the thesis. Thesis is just for you. And research paper is the one which is out in the public domain, and that is what being accepted for such a kind of as an evidence that you are aware of particular area of research or a particular scientific technique. Then contribution to the community and for the networking. As I said earlier, in the visibility as well as dissemination. So it is how we contribute to the community, because we are getting money for research directly or indirectly from the taxpayers. So we owe this to the community, and also for getting more collaborations, because this is how we get more collaborations and build a team, and to find opportunities and to develop opportunities, and also to utilize opportunities, and for community outreach as well as the professional identity. And the strategies, do's and don'ts. So there are two ways. One is top down or bottom up. So I always recommend a top-down approach, where you just start, you have an advanced planning, how to chapterize objectives into putative paper titles. So one or two objectives which you in the list of objectives can be combined to form one research paper, or sometimes even one objective alone could yield a paper. So it is in consultation with your supervisor, and the supervisor has to set the tentative titles, the format, and the contents. And the writing format, in fact, we have a very flexible formatting. One is writing as a traditional monographs style. Another one is a publication-based manuscript or manuscript-based thesis. I always like the latter one. But even if you follow the first one, still it is not too difficult to make a paper or to carve a paper. Introduction, normally the thesis should comprise, the introduction literature, and you can have chapters, each chapters as a substance for a research paper. Wherein we can discuss about the methodology as well as the results as well as discussion, and finally you can have an overarching discussion and conclusion. So this is one style which I normally like, and even I advise to students. And the last one is out of over enthusiasm, people will try to fragment the body of research into multiple titles. That's what we call in our parlance as salami slicing, make into small, chopping into small topics. Actually, that is not a good idea, because you get repetition as well as you get the value and the visibility only on a full-length research article, not on short papers. Okay. So do not unnecessarily break the research into multiple fragmented papers, but it has to be a natural synthesis, and it has to have a natural, the division or making into papers, from your thesis. It has to be done naturally rather than by artificial fragmentation. And when you write, even though people talk about a thesis language and a research paper language, but I would rather go in to a style which is median, or which is just applicable for both of them. So I would normally go in for a language which is acceptable to research paper, which is also quite acceptable to thesis. Okay, so that could be done by using an assertive tone and an authenticated. Whatever you write, it has to be authentic. When you write something authentic, that is what the research paper style. Okay, and always follow research paper model. So this is how we start get the idea of research. And Char was talking about the culture of research. I really love that word, the culture of research. How do you get that culture of research? Just by reading more. So as a student, I recommend each student should read one research paper every week. So reading means is just not reading the abstract and the methodology, which normally people do, but you need to read end to end and underline, and then find out all the technical words, and whatever you don't understand, you need to discuss with your supervisor and your peers. So that is what the reading or review of or critical reading, journal critique. We had a workshop about the journal critique. So you need to have a kind of review, a reading which reviews the research paper. So by reading more papers, you will understand the format. Many of the journals have more or less a similar type of formatting style as well as language, and target the journal very early. If you want to write, you need to know what are the potential journals you are going to target, not just one journal, maybe have a few journals in hand, and synthesize the paper. To synthesize the paper from the thesis, you have to, if you are writing a classical thesis and then you want to synthesize out of the thesis, then it requires aggressive condensing. But what I would recommend is, whenever you write a thesis, even before that, you can start writing the paper. Okay, write something like 3 research papers, and that is what a PhD thesis, or 4 research papers, and that's what going to be a PhD thesis. And avoid using AI tools in the very early on, because you can use AI tools like grammar check and all those things after you have written. It's not for synthesis. To synthesize a paragraph, you don't need an AI. You can write by yourself. If there is a mistake, fine. Let that be mistakes, and we can spot out the mistakes and correct and rewrite. We have enough opportunities. But the original writing and the idea should come out from your thought and thought process, where you need to write, start writing with your own hands, with your own mind, instead of using an AI tool. That's what I want to impress on here. And avoid self-plagiarism as well as plagiarism. Self-plagiarism means, your own papers, your group's papers. Don't put that up front, but it can also be cited, but subsequently. Then peer help. Make presentation and get reviewed within the group, and attend the workshops and trainings. So presentation within the group, that is within your research group, within your colleagues, with your supervisory committee or advisory committee, and get as much as reviewed as possible, and attend the help sessions. In our faculty, I have started some help sessions and also some kind of workshops and trainings, how to write a research paper, how to review a research paper, all these things. So please attend those things and get, feel free to get some help from people, and work slowly and steadily. There is no haste here. So I always recommend write one paragraph a day. So 5 or 6 lines a day. That's good when you are in a good mood. You don't need to do it while you are in a hurry, but when you are in a good mood, think about it and then write just 5 or 6 lines. So this is how it grows. And you spend time to read and self-review, review and peer review and polish. So this is my rough estimate, or even my recommendation. A PhD could yield 3 papers, maybe 2 full-length and 1 review paper, even more than that. And MPhil could be 1 research paper, full-length paper, and MSc could be 1 small or big paper. And methodology paper, you can write whenever it is a new method or a modified method. And then always focus on subscription-based journals where you don't need to pay the APC or the article processing charges. Stay away from the vanity and predatory publications. There has been talk about it. So due to over enthusiasm, people jump into these, and it creates a big dent early or as well as late in the career. So stay away from these journals. And referee books, chapters, and the conference proceedings. You will get a lot of invitations. You can also go in for that. It is acceptable. But in my view, journal paper is number 1. This could be number 2. And find funding sources. This is where it's tricky because everything matters. Money, particularly an open access journal, you have to pay. I'm paying, my students, out of my pocket. If I feel it's a really good paper, I come out and then I do it because it is good to get it published in a high visibility journal. And normally they impose a APC charge. A rejection is a blessing. If you feel rejected, be bold, and you don't need to worry about it. It is a stepping stone. And there was, from Mycoo also was talking about it. So this is how you can have a free reading and review by a critical reviewer, where you can just do a complete review and then send it to your next journal. I have been rejected a couple of times or 3 times, but I am happy to say that I got published in a better journal. So it is always a blessing, and it's not a curse. No way it is a curse. Once you have written, it has to be published, no matter what it is. So that is a destiny. And take pride and celebrate the achievement. Whatever you did, a paper, small or big, it is a paper. And take pride and be happy about it and celebrate the achievement. In my group, I always buy cake and ice cream and then celebrate that evening with everybody. So celebrate the achievement and share your experience. It's not just it is ending up with you alone. You need to establish a lineage in your research group where you need to freely communicate and inform others that where you are stuck and what was good and what was not so good. So help others. So this is where you share your experience and make others aware, as well as you educate others. So don't say that I'm a student, I'm not. No, you are better positioned in that way. So your supervisor won't be you'll be too busy. But as a student among your peers, you can just share your experience, and that will be very helpful for the next person and also for yourself, because you're not going to stop with one paper. So you're going to do the next paper, whatever you have, the take-home lesson, and that you'll be adopting the next stage. So this is how we get perfected. We get the experience. Okay. So I think that's all in my deck, and thank you so much for the opportunity again. I'm so happy to be with you all, and if there are any questions, I would love to answer. Thank you so much. Bye.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prof, for sharing all your experience and also the insightful presentation for our research students. Especially, I like how you put together everything in your presentation and said that we have to read the paper from end to end. Not only the methodology or else the discussion and results, but I would say even to look into the authors who published By that way, we can engage them as collaborators. On campus, I have heard some challenges with respect to supervision or else, the guidance. It is not necessary that we can be an expert in all subjects. Nowadays, there is a lot of scope and a lot of emphasis on the multidisciplinary research. Therefore, our supervisor can give all sort of guidance, but still beyond that, if we need some expert guidance, then we can look into the journal papers which has published in your research area, and you can reach out to those the professors or else the researchers, whether they are willing to be in your advisory committee or else willing to be your co-supervisor. Then the university guidelines and regulations, it allow to have someone external to the UWI as a co-supervisor or as a member in your advisory committee. By that way, even you can go to their lab or go to their place to do some work. That's how in our resource constrained places, we can make that collaboration, and the students can also get a very good exposure and confidence and experience visiting all those labs or the facilities. Thank you so much, Prof. Once again, with that, we are moving to the next presenter. That's our Professor Chidum Ezenwaka. He is a professor of chemical pathology with 36 years of academic and teaching experience at the Faculty of Medical Sciences. Prof. Ezenwaka, he has published a lot of papers in reputed journals, and he has contributed as well as editorial board member. And also he has reviewed several papers. Without further ado, I invite Prof. Ezenwaka to share his experience, and he's going to speak on From Research to Publication, a Scientist Story. I think it's going to be his own story. I saw some of the questions as well. Those questions on the chat will be answered after all presentations. Over to you, Prof. Thank you.
Right. I hope you're hearing me well.
Yes, Prof.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, for bringing me to this. And I guess that this is a mix of students and lecturers, junior lecturers. What I'm going to say is not going to be so unfamiliar with colleagues who are close to me. And I think I'm called because somebody would know how you became professor or how I've been professor here. I think the most important thing for 18 years in University of West Indies. This is my 18th year, 2018 now. So if I'm telling my story, it could inspire somebody to do it. And I think I have done that, and some people grow to be a professor here too. I have a number of people that I tell the same story. So I'm saying the story to junior colleagues and to postgraduate students. My question is, why do you even go into postgraduate education or into doing research? Is it for you to get qualifications or to get promotion or to belong to elite group? Or do you have an issue in health sciences or physical sciences? Or is it a problem you wish to solve? For me, as a person, it's number 3 that led me to going to do masters to PhD, because I want to belong to the group of special people that have the highest degree. It's funny, but that is really my interest, because I want to do that. And when you make that decision that you want to go for high, even the people here who read medicine, I said, if you are MBBS holder, you are just a general practitioner, but when you have higher education, you become a specialist. And then when you do research, you help in solving problems. One of these will then come in. Then when you enter into the research arena of postgraduate education, your supervisor will teach you about literature review, how to formulate hypotheses, the method you have to choose in doing that. But whether that your research will be impactful, useful or not, depends on number 4 bullet, funding the research. funding the research can limit what you have to do, especially in developing countries. I had the last speaker who said that he funded the publication cost of the research he do with his students because you have little funds available. So you have to think about that. I tell people that listen to me that all the time you have to think first how to fund the enterprise of research. And so that will lead you to doing collaboration or getting big research. If you are in UWI here, UWI Campus Research Fund is a seed fund to help you start off. But you must have collaboration from developed nation where you can get money or you collaborate. A number of my research were funded abroad. You do go there and do that. And when I have a postgraduate student, the number of students I have to send them abroad for them to go and do some of the exotic tests. That is where the impact of what you are doing will come. That's why I said that funds can limit your inspiration because it depends on what you want to do. And number two tip I want you to note is that if you are registered for PhD, MPhil, or even master's degree, I would tell you that one way to sharpen your knowledge in research is for you to be involved in all kinds of research that is in your team. I started doing that from master's degree level. I got involved, especially if you are supervised for an established individual. The person will have his own personal research as well as your own research going. It's only when you get interested in all the research activities, that's when you will sharpen your research capacity and be able to design research that will have meaning. Going through this, I will address what we mean when we say impactful research. Impactful research may be community-based in your immediate environment, or it might be international. I will give example with one or two of my publications before I became professor. In 2003, I have one of my publications cited with editorial comment. In 2005, I wasn't professor in those times. Those are the times I did research that I felt that are important. But the most impactful one from that design research is through my professorial inaugural lecture 2010. The questions and the interest people who are suffering from diabetes were asking me at amphitheater here. It gave me a lot of joy because I did what was important to all of them. So interest is then you narrow to what is of interest to you. But you have to remember that research can never be a straight line, that what you plan will always be. It is a zigzag. It can go up or down. Whatever it is, if you are very persistent knowing that it may fail, the data might come as unexpected one. You could have hopelessness. It could be a lot of delays. For me, I collected samples for my research and it stayed 8 months in the deep freezer until I get World Bank scholarship to go to University of Newcastle upon Tyne in England. And within 3 months of arrival, I was able to do all the laboratory investigations. And that correlates with what I said first about funding the enterprise. You could do very nice research, but you have the idea, but you may not have the funds for you to carry it out. And when you don't have the funds to carry it out, it will limit what you'll be able to do. So you have to put that in mind while going forward in postgraduate education of doing research and subsequently trying to publish that. You have to remember that it will never go in a straight line for you all the time. For instance, I had in my postgraduate PhD, my research topic was on syndrome X. Syndrome X was what was in vogue when Gerard Revin proposed syndrome X in medicine. And we had to do that research as my PhD. And all the biochemical parameters we had to do. But one mistake in developing country was that I stored the sample at -20 degrees. We don't have a refrigerator in the lab that we get up to -70. And when I carried that sample to England to do the analysis, I couldn't do the lipoproteins. I only did triglyceride and cholesterol. So because lipoprotein was very important in defining syndrome X, syndrome S was later changed to metabolic syndrome. Those in medicine, we know this evolution. The result, my PhD thesis had to address cardiovascular risk factors. So when you are doing research and you recognize the fact that it could be in zigzag, not straightforward, that's when I had somebody talk about doing literature review and knowing what is current, what is happening in such a way that you can easily, you should be able to analyze your data and it will have several meaning, and then you focus on the one you have, and the interpretation becomes a major factor. You could face that kind of thing. So I went from syndrome X to cardiovascular risk factor. And the professor I was in his lab said, that's wonderful. I had up to 5 publications from my PhD because it was something on top. So coming to drafting that data, that is where the problem is. If you are a new person in research, that was the shock I got at the master's degree. There's no research I have done that was never published. If you are lucky to be with an established professor or a senior lecturer who is interested in research, whatever you said, my colleague said it that just a few minutes ago, that whatever you do, make sure you publish it. It's only when you publish it that it becomes a citable piece of work. So, and the act of drafting, many colleagues that had come to me, their problem is in writing manuscript. Collecting data is not a problem. Going to measure height and collecting blood sample and separating it is not a problem. Any technician can do that. But the art of writing is perhaps where you will even look for seminars where people will teach about the art of drafting. My supervisor at MSc level gave me the assignment of drafting the MSc research data for it to be a manuscript. And I just almost repeated my thesis, and it has no meaning. So the interpretation of your result, being able to aggregate, to dissect your data, for those in medicine, for it to have meaning, for it to have diagnostic meaning, for it to have interpretation that one can apply in policy or in medical diagnosis. That is where the job is. It is one challenge in that you cannot finish. In fact, if you do your PhD and you don't get to know how to get the data in clear format, you'll be in trouble going forward. So that is one area of importance, that the data you collected, being able to interpret it and aggregate it in a format that it will have meaning is very important. Then you submit. Somebody has already elaborated. I think Michelle said the inquiries about the journal you want. Those are small things you can read and know the area of your interest. Then this is very important because I have very ugly experience here in my early years. I submitted manuscript and reviewers were making comments, asking me questions. And I felt that the questions they were asking me were not valid. And I wasn't addressing their questions. In fact, I was more or less challenging some of the questions, not knowing that they were the referees. And that article, I had it rejected and thrown away, and in annoyance, I avoided it. It was never published till date. What is the advice there? The comments give you a good new ideas. As a matter of fact, when I came to Trinidad in the early 1998, I came here by early 2000. I was using reviewers as my colleagues. When they make their comment, I incorporate the new idea They will tell you, why didn't you use ANOVA instead of using t-test? You say, okay, yeah, that's good. Why didn't you do correlation? I will apply those. It makes meaning. And when they reject, somebody has already talked about rejection can be it can cause depression. Somebody like me, I don't take it easily. I don't like being rejected for any reason. But the lesson there is that when your manuscript is rejected, it gives you a sense to redirect or refocus where you are taking the manuscript to, your interpretation, the challenge. That's why I said aggregating your data. Last week or so, I went to a postgraduate seminar, and I said that your direction of their data has no meaning. And later, the student had to come to me for me to explain. You may get a nice data to interpret that we have meaning, but the way it is addressed, the direction it is going, or the focus need to be redirected. So you don't take that. So somebody has said it here, which is all professors know that when your paper is accepted, you'll be very happy. Even at this level, if they accept my paper, I feel very happy. And I applied for professors when they accepted a very good paper I wrote in like 2007 or so, and that was it. And I applied. And when you are asked to come and present at a conference, it's nice, and you see your paper, your name in print, you see citation, and just like I said before, you see people said researchers in Trinidad has shown, and when you go to that reference, it will be Ezenwaka et al. I feel excited about it. That's my contribution to that will ever be there. So article acceptance, the impact it makes, you could do a research that may not even have impact in Trinidad population, but it will have an impact in international audience. I've done one that has an international audience, and the one that is impactful, that I had to go to television to present, and people will ask questions. That's the one I feel that I did job to the community. I did research on roti, and people were asking me questions on roti. I wrote it in newspaper. I went to television, radio during my professorial inaugural lecture. People were bombarding me with questions on roti. I felt that I keep that as the best I have done here. And I wrote in newspaper, Guardian newspaper, roti in moderation. Roti in moderation, that's the caption. That's my best. Because the study I did are in offsprings of people that have diabetes. It was editorial, but nobody read about that here in Trinidad, but it's impactful in that sense. So what are my advice to you, colleagues, on what I have done? Well, I have to be persistent. Persistent and being interested is not really striving for perfection to get it. I'm happy that the impact of your work could be in low. From before you start aspiring for big journals, you must have to know what you have done that other people have not done, or people have not done something greater than it. But the important thing is for you to put it in print. When I came here in 1998, I wanted to do some research, and people were telling me they have done it. I said, if you have done it, give me the papers, or give me where it is published so that we see it. It was not done until I established the food frequency recall, what it is like, and it is in paper. I'm happy to, somebody mentioned about the integrity and the ethics, which is a must. You have to be sure of what you are doing in such a way that every research you do must be reproducible. If you say that you can turn water to be blue and you state the method, people should be able to do it and get the same result you do. And you ask yourself serious questions on what you are doing. If I had done it the other way, what would be the result? That is what research is all about. The cutoff from my master's PhD study, I continued doing it when I came to Trinidad. So there are questions that you will never finish if you are doing PhD. You continue doing that research. That's why people do postdoctoral.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
And,
Thank you
and
so
that's
much, Prof. And
good.
it's really a lot of information there. And we have, some of the questions as well in the chat. So definitely, we'll be inviting you back to respond to some of those questions. And it's really, interesting to hear from you. Is the metrics, right? And nowadays, the research metrics is measured not only with the citations, but also the reference to the online social media citations, or else how that is actually impacting the communities, or how that is actually influencing the society. So all of that has been taken into consideration. So thanks for bringing that out, as well as sharing your experience. It's greatly appreciated. With that, now we are going to have a next presentation from our professor, Chris Maharaj. He's going to do the presentation on overcoming challenges in creating an impactful publication. I see the order of presentation has flow in a very nice manner. And this one is finally, he's going to make a presentation on how to overcome some of those challenges when we create an impactful publication. Of course, he's the head of the Department of Mechanical and Manufacturing Engineering, and our former dean, deputy dean of research and postgraduate student affairs in the Faculty of Engineering. Without further ado, Prof, over to you.
Thanks, Prof. Confirming that you can hear me and that you can see the slide.
Yeah, I'm seeing the slide as well as I'm hearing you better.
Okay. Well, again, thanks to you and to the team and to the attendees for being in the session. I'm using Mentimeter software, the Mentimeter software. It's a means of achieving some interactivity with all attendees. So I invite you to go either onto menti.com and to type in the numbers you see there, 12366586, or you can with your phone scan the QR code. And let's see if as a group here we could converge on some solutions going forward. But first we could talk about some of the challenges that, for example, Prof. Chidum mentioned. So what I'll do is jump to the first question. And I want to know, what's the biggest challenge that you face in publishing impactful work? I'm hoping that some of you have gotten through to be able to respond accordingly. A word cloud should begin coming up for those that are responding. Just wanted to confirm. Oh, okay, good, great. I was getting worried there. Okay, so we have some comments coming up. Time management. I don't know how finding the correct journal. A lot of students and a lot of folks these days are talking about this imposter syndrome. I don't know why people feel that they aren't skilled enough or have that feeling, that they just aren't good enough, even though they are in the area and they are doing the requisite work. I noticed that a lot of experts tend to feel that way, that even though they know a lot, they feel they still don't know enough. A question or comment about predatory journals. There's the Scopus list that has index journals, SCOPUS. So if you refer to that list, you could download that list, and all reputable journals that are considered that way by Scopus in that list. So you could use that list as a guide. There's also the SCIMAGO, SCIMAGO site where you could get that guidance on journals that will most likely be suitable to your work. So the biggest concern that came up, or challenge to be more specific, is time management. And as Prof. Jaya said, slow and steady is good. Nothing is wrong with slow and steady. Uh, I see that there's some research into the benefits of procrastination. So procrastination to some extent is good as well. But what I would suggest is go with the flow, and slow and steady could work well. So what I'll do, because I'm mindful of the time, and I'll move on to the other question here. Which stage do you find most challenging when creating a publication? And Prof. Sarah, hopefully what I could do is share the results. These are anonymous results here.
Yeah.
And hopefully I could share the results with your team.
Yeah, certainly. Thanks so much, Prof. So that we can this will help as well to schedule some of the workshops, the
No
future
problem.
sessions. Yeah.
Because I'm mindful of the time as well. I only have 11 minutes left there.
Yes. Thank you.
So I see a lot of concerns coming up about writing and structuring. That's the issue with all the demands we have as humans. We have to be mothers and fathers and husbands and wives. Along with we have to see about our physical well-being, our mental well-being. Where are you going to find this time to write? And one positive development that occurred in my department was through the formation of an improving research publication output team that consists of currently about 6 members. And these members work together to publish papers. And for example, I love the idea of refining a manuscript and submitting it to publishers, even though I know I'm going to get rejected. I've been rejected by maybe about 20 in the last 2 months or so, but I'm fine with that because I know sometimes there could be a lot of bias in the system as well. Folks tend to look at publications from our region of the world as not significant, even though it is significant. They have that inherent bias. So my role in that group, I love to bring a thesis to manuscript stage, and I love to submit it, even though the rejections come after, and it's a lot of rejections, So I see writing comes with it. So what you could do is possibly work with your head of department to create a group like that, or there could be some other solutions as well. But I'm happy to see that we have converged that writing is a big issue. But let's move on now to sharing one strategy that helped you overcome a publication challenge. It might take a little while to get some responses here because we're looking for some phrases. Okay, thanks for that. Writing a paper with peers, as we just discussed, yeah? And then we could also, as Prof. Mycoo indicated, find the right journal, and we have certain websites like SciMago that helps immensely. I also find that the LLMs help in determining a good journal home as well, and they're able to rank according to cost and according to the rank of that journal as well. They can even put it in table form for you. So quite a few things coming up. How we can overcome publication challenges. We have mentorships, working in quiet. Some people like to work with some background noise, some music in the background, for example. That's fine. It's what is best for you. Using AI, well, yes, AI could help, but to a certain extent. And I believe the university will have future workshops on this and on how AI could be optimally used at this juncture, at this stage in the evolution of civilization, especially with respect to academics and publishing. Collaboration is really important. You could get a lot of synergy, right? Out of working with a group. This, that final output could be far greater than the individual contributions of each of the persons. Okay, so I'll move on. I see I have 6 minutes left. So to what extent do you agree with these statements about impactful publications? And I believe you have to use some sort of slider to determine if you strongly disagree or agree with those statements. And we see there's a convergence that clear communication is essential for impact. And I would agree with that as well. But I know that as people of the Caribbean region, we are very good in our English communication. I guess it's the technical aspects that have to be communicated efficiently. That could be a challenge at times. Also, well, in second place is feedback from peers strengthens my work. I would agree with that as well. And we could rely on peers in our university, in our faculties, in our departments that we get along with. And I would say something controversial, to stay away from those who give erroneous advice and advice that could sometimes be construed as malicious. I remember when I was a lecturer, I never sought the advice from a particular professor, and it's a professor in my faculty. But he would come and offer his advice, and his advice would be the worst advice to take. Because anytime I took his advice, things wouldn't turn out how they should. And anytime I did the opposite of what he advised, things will work out. And I'm not sure of the reason for it. Sometimes I go back and try to think about it. Is it his ego? Was it that he was jealous of me, or maybe that's just his personality? His or her personality, sorry. Uh, I don't know, but I knew from that moment on, from the onset, to totally disregard his advice. Okay, so let's move on. I see I have 4 minutes left, and we have 2 slides, I think, 2 more slides. So distribute 100 points among these factors based on their importance for impact. What do you consider important? And you could give one of these fields 100, or you could give one of them 50 and two of them 25 and the other one 0 to make up that 100. So what do you consider to be important? Yeah, the novelty of the research. And that's one of the constraints in our region. We don't have the state-of-the-art research equipment, and we don't have that critical mass of researchers in order to engage in truly novel research. And that's why so many of our works get rejected as well, because we are in a Caribbean context, and we always have to be mindful of that. And I think that the university is becoming more mindful of this fact. And for example, in my faculty, there's the West Indian Journal of Engineering that we could submit to. It's a journal that belongs to our faculty, and it's rated a Tier 2 journal in my faculty for assessment and promotion purposes. And I think that journal has served us very well. And some of those papers in that journal have been highly cited. Okay, so let's move on to the final question. I have 2 minutes left. What's one action you'll take to make your next publication more impactful? So I'll just reiterate what Prof. Chidum said. He talked about patience. Prof. Mycoo talked about finding the applicable journals. And Prof. Jaya said slow and steady wins the race, right? Could win the race. So write with focus on the audience. Yeah, slow and steady writing. Yeah, just keep at it. If you miss a day, not a problem. If you miss a week, not a problem. Slow and steady. I have observed persons who keep at something, they do well. It may take some time, but in the end, they will do well, especially when you do what you like. Write on a trending topic, accept feedback well, collaborate, identify the gaps, the research gaps, and also identify our constraints here in the Caribbean context again, identify where we have our limitations and the limits of what you could do as a result of that. Perseverance, excellent. Focus on methodology. So with that, folks, I really want to thank those who did this Menti set of questions. I really appreciate it. And hopefully when the information is collated here and I shared with Prof. Sarah, it will redound in some benefit in the future. Thanks, Prof. Sarah.
Yeah,
Back to you.
thank you so much, Prof. It's very engaging presentation. Really know this is going to help us to determine what are the other future sessions that we have to schedule for our researchers and postgraduate students. Now, we have completed all presentations. We are going into the discussion session. And of course, we have 12 more minutes to have the discussion. I have seen a lot of questions here. Some of them have been answered, but still, I would like to get the perspective of our panelists on this matter. The first one is to all panelists, and anyone can take it, but I would like the responses, very, very short responses. The first one, with targeting research on the region, would you encourage publication in regional journals such as West Indian Journal of Engineering or Caribbean Teaching Scholar? Prof. Mycoo, since you have published a lot in the international platform, so I would like your brief response on this matter.
Yes, so thank you, Prof. Sarah. I think it's useful for a young researcher to explore the use of the West Indian Journal of Engineering, just to gain some confidence if the paper is accepted, and once you've got your traction, to really go outside of the region to explore other high-impact journals at an international level. As I say, it's good to use our regional or local journals, and they are peer-reviewed by eminent scholars, people who know the discipline and understand the region well. But beyond that, I would encourage the young scholars to cast your net wide, go into the deep ocean, and go for the high-impact journals.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Mycoo. Now, there is another question, probably I will respond to that. What is the appropriate order of authorship when supervisors publish jointly with your students and faculty have helped to prepare the manuscript? So in this case, when it comes to the thesis, it should be the student, and the manuscript should be based on the research conducted by the student after registered into the program. Of course, followed by the student as the first author, the other supervisors and advisory committee members or the co-supervisor, based on their contribution, they could be included in that manuscript or in that, or the paper which is going to be submitted for publication. There were some questions as well with respect to use of AI, and also I'm seeing with respect to writing in the the assistance that is given from the writing center. With respect to AI, use of AI, we have a AI policy framework, right? First, for the research, it should come from the researcher. Of course, in this case, the students. The students are responsible for writing, research writing, and that's what all professors have mentioned, that you have to do the writing. Then you could use some of those AI tools after you complete the whole writing. And of course, it has to go for multiple draftings as well, right? It's not that you are going to get that perfection at the first time. Even to submit to the journals, right? And there are journal guidelines for use of AI. And I know that in case of Elsevier journals, they strictly say it is responsibility of the author, and we have to declare if you're going to use the AI and the prompt and all of those things. Therefore, for writing, we have to do it by ourselves. Then for the grammar check and other things, if we have to use the AI, and we could use that. But at the same time, the work, it should be the researcher's responsibility, and writing is also researcher's responsibility. So that's where, suppose if something happens with the AI deduction, and if someone has to end up with the investigation and with the academic integrity and all of those things, the drafting of the original research versions or the documents, and even those will be reviewed and those will be looked into it. If one is just coming and saying that, yes, I did the research and this is my final manuscript, but before that, as humans, as researchers, we know that that would have gone several revisions in your own writing and in your own corrections and sharing with the supervisors. All of those, will be looked into it. Just I'm sharing it. Therefore, use of AI is not advised, as mentioned by Prof. Jaya in his presentation. There is going to be a guideline which we will be sharing it in the academic year, in the forthcoming academic year, about the responsible use of AI. There are some papers as well which I could share after this meeting about the ethical use of AI. Then probably I'll ask this question to Prof. Chidum. Prof. Chidum, Ezenwaka, should a student pursue publishing opportunities during dissertation or afterwards? At what stage should a student start discussing research publication ambitions with their supervisor or the supervisory committee?
Yeah, I think that examiners are happy, say during PhD defense, for you to show evidence that some parts of your research has been published. In some areas, like in Australia, in Japan, your PhD is dependent on the number of publications you have made out of your research. And if I give an example, before I made the defense, I have presented part of the work in journal, or I've published some of them. And the people I supervise here is almost the same thing. As soon as the data is ready, you start shipping it out.
Thank you so much. There is a case recently. I mean, the student came to me, and after many years of his registration in the program, right, the student not sure whether to go with the traditional thesis or to go with the manuscript-based thesis. When I discussed with the student, I realized that the students, he wasn't clear, and even the consultation with the supervisor was also not clear. The reason is, be it a traditional thesis or manuscript-based thesis, it doesn't matter, but the principle of conducting research is the same, right? What you're going to do is, once you're going to formulate 3 or 4 research objectives, and each research objective is going to formulate a manuscript or a chapter. That's how the manuscript-based thesis is going to be done. Then again, manuscript-based thesis is not mandatory for submission of the PhD thesis, but the purpose of publication is to increase the visibility of your work, as well as increase the visibility of the university. That is going to help your career as well. Therefore, it is a one time if you're going to publish while you're doing your dissertation. If not, then again, after completion of your PhD, you know that how tired you would be. After completion of your PhD, you will think that, okay, I have completed the job. Then it may be difficult then again to take that and redo it and or reform it or restructure and publish it. That is one of the disadvantages that you may have. Another thing is, when you are publishing the dissertation, I know our students, they take 5 years to 7 years to complete their PhD. You know how the research and the science is evolving over the years. Therefore, when you do your dissertation and when you submit your paper, when you complete the research objective, the first one and the second one and the third one, it is timely and it receives the impact and the traction that is required. Otherwise, if you're going to wait to publish your research after 7 years or 8 years, that will be outdated.
Yes.
And by the time many people have already published, and when you are publishing something, it is not a novel research already, because it's fast growing world. Therefore, we have to do it. Then when you are publishing a paper, you will get the motivation. Believe me or not, once you publish the first paper, then automatically you will get that interest and you will start doing the second paper, because the visibility you're going to get it in the world of work or else in the internet and everywhere, your name will be there, your visibility is there, and you are referenced everywhere. So that is the exciting thing that you're going to experience. Therefore, that is also very important.
And you see that consistent with what I just said, you see that in medical school here, our students do research in year 2, and they do presentations and present it at the National Research Meeting or our research day here at the faculty. But part of the course is that they will show evidence of submission for a journal, and that's about 2 or 3 credits for you to show evidence that you have submitted this. What it means is that whatever you are doing in that year 2 must have meaning. It will not just be research for the fun of it, but it should be publishable. So if you're doing master's or MPhil or PhD, and you are ready to submit it, but you have not even fashioned a little bit of it for publication, the good research for PhD should have up to 4 publications. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Prof. And I'm seeing 2 more questions. Other questions, they have already been answered in the chat box. Writing service provides assistance with scientific writing of papers or just language correction. That is the question. For that, the scientific writing, it is the responsibility of the researcher or the student. However, to some extent, the writing center can help to restructure or else, to facilitate that student or the researcher to write in a scientific language, but mainly they will focus on the language. Then again, when I'm seeing this question, the presentation of data, presentation of figures or the facts in your research findings, all of that, you can get a lot of information when you read the papers that has been published in that field. I have seen a lot of papers that's, the simple research, but in-depth research that has been presented in a nice way with a lot of analysis and a lot of interpretations. That is also very, very important. I'm seeing another question. A lot of questions, I'm seeing it here now. Is it all right for a non-supervisor of a student's work to co-publish an article from the student's thesis? Okay, so if someone is going to help you from your faculty or from your department, and they could be included as the co-authors in that paper, make sure that they have contributed significantly so that they deserve a co-authorship in that paper, right? But again, the supervisor, you need to engage the supervisor. And if the supervisor is not providing any guidance to the researcher, then there is no meaning for that supervisor. In that case, you can reach out to us and we can find a resolution. And if you need to change the supervisor, and if you have another person or the staff member who is working closely with you and guiding you, then that staff member should be appointed or nominated as the supervisor. Therefore, that can be resolved. There is another question. Would the professors also suggest publishing your work as a book chapter as an initial start, or should we prioritize journals from the start? I'm not sure who is going to take this. Profs, panelists, Prof. Mycoo.
Thanks, Prof. Sarah. It depends really on the actual discipline. So in the sciences, the journals are preferred. In the arts and humanities, book chapters, as well as journal articles, but the book chapters are fine as well. So it depends on the discipline, really. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So the book chapters, as mentioned, nowadays a lot of reputed publishers, they publish open books like, the Elsevier or Springer as well. That is encouraged, but again, the journal articles is preferred with respect to science faculties and humanities and education. You could think of the book or the book chapters that could be done as well. Now, we have almost, come to the end of this session. I would like to give the final takeaways from our panelists to our researchers. First, I will ask Prof. Mycoo, followed by Prof. Ezenwaka, then Prof. Maharaj, before we end this session. Prof. Mycoo, what's your final takeaway for our research students and, of course, the graduate supervisors?
Yeah, I would say that from the inception, know that research publications can lead you into a very exciting part of your career. Stay on course. I know I heard Professor Jayaraj say slow and steady. Jaya say slow and steady. But sometimes you can, as you said, Prof. Sarah, if you've taken too long, by the time you've published, it's a dead-on arrival. There's just so much work coming on that your paper will have very little added value if you wait too long to publish. But that's important, and it's important to also, apart from disciplining yourself, to keep some kind of time schedule to get the output published. It's important to develop a sense of resilience that you won't always get favorable results, but stay on course. There are good things ahead of the pathway. Yeah.
Thank you, Prof. Prof. Ezenwaka.
Yeah, my sincere advice is if you're a postgraduate student doing research, have sufficient interest in what you have chosen to do and be persistent about it. If you are interested and you are persistent, you will arrive there in good time. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Prof. Maharaj.
Yeah, just to say that these knowledge sharing sessions are really important. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much to all our professors for your kind willingness to be a panelist. And of course, you delivered an excellent presentation in your speech. So that's so useful for all our graduate students as well as the graduate supervisors. And I hope that this will not just, stop with this session, but graduate students will be engaging the supervisors as well as the graduate studies and research. We are here, and of course the writing center. Then I have seen Mr. Dwarka, that's from the Faculty of Medical Sciences library. We have library as well to support our graduate students. So we have all support, but we are trying to make the visible that we are here to support you, and that is one of the purposes of this particular session. We will be sending you more information about the future sessions. We look forward to your progress in your research as well as in your publication. With this, I thank all of our presenters here this afternoon, and thank you so much for your joining. Have a wonderful afternoon. Bye, everyone.